Hey guys, welcome to my live stream. Good morning. Welcome to my cactus live stream. Cactus care, sowing out little cactus seedlings, which I have brought a lot of here. Also, sowing out here, actually freshly sown out containers that I want to control. And we will have seeds, cactus seeds on the stream today again. Different types, Lobivia, Cerenzia, the classic ones that I like to work with. Okay, yeah, this is here a few different cups with little fruit that I still have found. I will go through them today, one after the other. I brought plants that I want to discuss, like seedlings, where one has probably a root problem, maybe mealybug problem. So we would see that. Yeah, a lot of stuff to do today. So I guess I will get started. Welcome everyone to my cactus stream. Great to have you. I also brought my water sprayer. I want to maybe see if I can take this thing apart because the button broke here. Hey, good morning. Great to see you. Welcome to the streams. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I consider maybe opening this thing up, but I don't really want to break something. So let's see. This is actually a decent water sprayer, but that kind of the button has stopped working. So now I'm trying to see if I can maybe take this thing apart and maybe fix that button on the inside. I doubt it. It actually feels broken, but who knows? We'll also try to maybe it's just stuck. No. Okay. When I turn it around, it comes down. I don't think it's supposed to be like that. Before that, it had some sort of it gave a little, like, had some, you had to press against it firmly to activate it. It wasn't loose like that. Oh. There must be a way to open it. I'm just not smart, you know? I'm just not I don't have the mental capacity to open this thing, I believe. At least not without breaking it. Come on. I brought a butter knife. Maybe it works with this. So this is very blunt, not really sharp enough to injure myself, but yeah. Oh, come on. I can kind of get it open, but not really. Would be a shame to throw this thing away if there would be a way to fix it. The one thing that I noticed with the water sprayers, it's a little thing, you know? They have a lot of different valves that can be clogged up. They often get pressure problems. And I don't want to throw it away if I have other options, you know, but this doesn't look good. I'm just not really getting it off. I will try to find a way. This needs to be, I'm sure it's possible to open this thing up. It must be. There's some sort of a thing here where you can maybe click in, you know, but I'm just not smart. I'm like, you know, I'm just not smart like that. Oh, come on. I need to put it away. I will deal with this another time. Leave me alone. Okay. Let's discuss the other stuff that I wanted to discuss. Yeah, exactly. I mean, not really. It wasn't a bad thing, you know. This thing has a few years where I've been using it, and under pretty rough conditions outside. So it's not really. It was okay for quite a few years. So I don't want to trash the company. This was on me, basically. I'm probably just at some point that thing breaks when you leave it out in all the different kind of weathers, like in summer, in rain, when it's getting colder, and when you have frost, some of the plastics break down. I really think this one was on me. So yeah, I brought these Lobivia seedlings here that I just wanted to discuss. They have been looking pretty bad. They got a lot of water from like drip water in the greenhouse. So now I try to save at least one of them. I only have two. I've been inspecting the root and it just doesn't look good. I think I need to remove the root. Thank you. You too. Have a nice day, Dave. Okay, yeah, and here's another seedling. Little bit reddish. This one, but it still has a chance. So I want to change the soil. I will use sowing soil here as soil. Okay, I want to discard of the old soil. Let me just, I'll be back. I will just discard of the soil because I don't want to reuse it. Okay, I don't mind reusing the pot, but I don't want to reuse the soil here. I want to have fresh soil just to give it a little bit of new feet, new shoes, you know. So okay, trying to press the soil a little together. I don't want to have it too loose. I don't want to have a powdery kind of soil that sticks to the plant. And I also need to remove the root section here. So I will take this off. I will take off the roots. This was probably caused by mealybug. And mealybug, they basically continuously cause these tiny injuries at the root stock. And that will lead to little fungal infections. It will look like just a normal fungal infection, but it's actually driven by the pest. And in this case, I don't think if you leave it like this, I try to show you how it looks, but it has this kind of scarred over kind of look, but with a brownish undertone, and that is never good. Like usually when you see that, there's something below. So yeah, let's take that off. I just don't see a chance to leave the root, to save the root, save the plant with the root. Okay. Wound is clean. That is already great. Means that I can hopefully save the seedling. I will turn this upside down on top of the soil, and I will put this under my my lamp, special LED lamp, just for that I use for little cactus seedlings, sometimes to dry out wounds. Okay, so the other one here, that one is so dehydrated that I want to water it a little. But just that one. The other one I want to have relatively dry. But since this goes under the lamp, I'm not so worried about the humidity because the humidity will dry out within a day. And this, by the way, you can see here how the water is pooling on top of the soil. That is what's happening when you have dry soil. When the soil, when you take it out of the bag, usually when you buy sowing soil, you get it in these pretty like middle-sized bags. And when you take it out, it has it's still humid. They make sure that when you get the soil, there's still humidity in it, because the moment it dries out, it turns to something like this, you know, it becomes this powdery kind of top layer that just lifts everything up. If you already had seeds there, like when you're sowing out, you put the seeds on top of the dry soil and then you water, it will lift everything up, cover the seeds often, hence reducing the viability, germination rate, and that kind of stuff. And here the soil has already, it's sticking all over that seedling that I tried to plant there. So it's better when you use soil when it doesn't really have lost the humidity, when it didn't lose the humidity that it came with. So I always keep a very close eye on the bag. I'm making sure that the bag is closed. Also that nothing can come in, like fungus gnats. All very real risks when you are sowing out, and when you have a bag, you usually do not use up the whole bag. So make sure that it keeps the humidity and doesn't allow anything to come in. Okay, so this is Pseudolobivia. By the way, this seedling where I just removed the rootstock, that would be a great candidate to graft. Right now, if I had grafting stocks ready, I would just graft that thing. But I don't. I start pushing the grafting stocks in March, so I can start grafting maybe in May. 1 or 2 months of actual growth going into the grafting stock. I really believe that in order to make use of the grafting stock, you should actually have it in full growth. Otherwise, you're wasting potential. And again, so these here, I will put these under a little LED lamp. Nothing too strong. These do not have a lot of this is a very unforgiving situation. You do not have a lot of room for error. So this will just to heal the wound, to kind of improve the wound situation, to prevent it from coming back. That will go under a lamp. And I will, in the next couple of weeks, that one seedling that was reddish, that is planted there, it needs to constantly I need to water it. I need to constantly make sure that it's well potted up, because that is a pretty long root already for a small seedling, and sometimes it can be a little bit more difficult to perfectly pot up the seedlings that already have a substantial root, because you never have the perfect hole for that root. So I sometimes have to correct that. Okay, so let's get started with the seedlings. I would say I have brought a lot of different kind of seedlings, different stuff. Some where I've been sowing out just recently, where we just look into the containers, checking on the humidity, and others that are bigger. All the seedlings that are out of the bag, these cactus seedlings are maybe 2.5 months old. 2.5 months. And right now I'm spraying them a few times a day with a water sprayer, just misting them. And it's still not enough. They dry very fast. That shows you how often you need to spray little cactus seedlings if you have them outside of something like this, outside of a humidity chamber, self-made one. Okay, so let's have a look at these. Lot of small seedlings, not really healthy. A lot of variegation is already very visible. Seedlings look too small for their age. Some of them are bigger. That gives me a little hope that we might be able to grow some of them here. This is Teleflora, and this was one of the recent sowing outs that we did with Teleflora. Teleflora recently, I've seen a few good flowers from it. It's not that hybrid where I have seen immense like range. A lot of the hybrids go into a similar direction, but still they are great. They are big, like big flowers. Sometimes more than what, like the whitish kind of flower of Sörensia telegona that is in there will always kind of influence the next generation too. So very often the next generation, when you are crossing with Teleflora, next generation has these pinkish reddish kind of sepals, and that is a beautiful trait to have, like very beautiful constellation. Like when the flower opens up, the position between petal and sepal, it looks really nice, very beautiful flower. And when you're breeding with it, you kind of get into a similar direction but different. The one flower that I have shown recently, you can see the similarity to Teleflora, but there's something new. Apart from that, yeah, I will try to wait for the green seedlings that we have here. They are too small right now. These are under a plant lamp, just hoping that they will grow. Long term, I feel like if I can get a few seedlings from this container, then I'm happy long term, you know. I don't have high expectations. I'm easy to please. One plant can be enough sometimes. I don't really, it's not really something that I like when I only see 1 or 2 seedlings in a container, because that also tells you about viability, poor viability of seeds. But in general, 1 seedling can be enough, can be all that you need. Okay. Also wanted to say yesterday, by the way, yesterday I did a little video from outside. I'm not sure if you have seen, but check it out. I have been cleaning, I've started cleaning the greenhouses, and you can really see how that green algae layer comes off the greenhouse. Was very fun to do, because you could instantly see it being so much better. Instantly a lot more light. And today I will probably continue. It's raining, but I try to put in that 1 hour that I have usually a day with energy to do that kind of stuff outside now, because it's still early in the season. And if we do it now, the plants will get in the next months already a lot of extra light, and that is important. So we've been taking down little trees around the greenhouses, got a little help, and a lot of trees have come down. That has brought in so much more light, and in the next season you will see it. You will see how much more brighter the greenhouse will be, and it was overdue. That was one of the things that I wanted to do last year, because last year it had already shown that it wasn't great. But yeah, I finally did it. Hey, welcome to the stream. Great to have you. So yeah, a lot of work is going into the new season. I will make everything right this year. If things don't go really nuts, like if things doesn't look really amazing, then I don't know, you know. Then I've did everything I could, making sure there's enough light, cleaning everything, repotting. Last year I repotted more as I ever did, and important plants for breeding. So the coming season should be pretty good. It's definitely possible that 1 or 2 plants that I repotted will go straight into root growing mode, not flowering, just growing roots. That happens sometimes, but at least they have space now. They will flower again. So yeah, let's discuss these. Color-wise, they are okay. Fertilizer, of course, would be beneficial, but right now I'm not seeing a deficiency. I was born in Saarland, Germany. Yeah. Apart from that, there are some that are really small, really smallish ones. And if I take them out, I will probably lose those. The smallest in the container are always the ones that are the most at risk, that you can lose the easiest. So yeah, let's have a look at the label. I think it's a columnar cactus. Yeah, columnar cross. So it can sometimes make sense to wait for the interesting seedlings, you know. Think about TPM, those kind of hybrid, those kind of plants, mutations. Sometimes you have that interesting weird seedling that is just growing very slowly. But yeah, for now I would still leave them in, because the little seedlings here are still too small. It's just something that I really look at, because otherwise here's a perfect situation where I couldn't get them all through. Here's one that didn't make it, and just from having to water more. These are already sprayed 3 times a day. At some point, you are getting at your limit, and you can think about having a automated misting system or something like that. You know, that can definitely save you a lot of time. So they will stay in this thing for at least another week or 2. We will decide again next time. Next time I have that thing in my hand, we will decide again. Okay. These look good. I like that. Check it out. I like that they look healthy. They have a green color, and they aren't unusually small, particularly small, you know. But here I see a problem. Check it out. Here's a fungal infection, and it came from a seedling that expired. Probably a seedling or a seed, but probably a seedling. They come up. Something happens, very often dehydration, and then they expire. Can also be classic fungal infection from having dirty seeds, having fruit remnants on the seeds. That happens a lot. So let's take that thing out. This is one of the cases where I can remove the whole fungal infection by just removing the seedling. Personally, in my opinion, in many cases where you have a fungal infection, you can just take it out. There are situations when it comes back, but specific fungi, like specific mushrooms, they all have their own kind of requirements regarding the medium. Sometimes you have a piece of wood in there that fuels a wood decomposing mushroom, that kind of stuff, you know. So very often when you take out the problem, the actual cause of it, it will not come back. So you could even leave it in humidity. But there are the kinds of infections that cover the whole container. They exist, but very often they come in combination with stuff like fungus gnat. And there's this stuff that's called damping off. Damping off, also fungal infection, often coming from poor genetic health, weakish seedlings, and those will usually be the first that start something like damping off. It usually needs something that fuels the infection, and once it has reached a certain critical mass, then it can infect other seedlings too over time. But very often, fungal infections in a container are directly connected to the seeds, either by having dirty seeds, too many seeds. You can kind of fuel a fungal infection by just putting in too many seeds. It's kind of like forming one layer of seeds that can easily be overgrown. So, yeah, if you see a fungal infection, don't panic. Very often it's easily manageable. And also another thing that plays into this, a lot of fungal infections that people that are identified on social media are actually not fungal infections. They are seedlings that seedlings that overheat, seedlings that do not get enough water, seedlings that got too much water, that kind of stuff, you know. And that can later kind of masquerade itself as a fungal infection, just because at some point you lose the seedling and the seedling will just decay. And that, of course, looks like fungal infection, because I'm sure if you look, you will also find pathogens that you can see on the seedling, but it's not the actual cause for that. It was just a secondary infection that followed after something did the seedling. So yeah, these here have been transplanted. They looked very bad in the other medium. Here they are looking better. These two seedlings, actually, the green ones. The white ones here on the side, I don't think these will have a chance. But if we can get one of these or both to a larger size, that would be great. Hey mate, welcome to the stream. Great to have you. Yeah. We're doing pretty much similar stuff as yesterday, so you haven't really missed the important stuff. But I'm always happy when you're here. So thank you for joining. So yeah, just going through the seedlings, have sprayed them 3 times a day, and it's not enough. They need more. For most of the seedlings, it is all right, but a few of them in between, you know, the small ones. Here's one that I've shown earlier. The smaller ones are the first to go. In this case, that's okay, because a lot of the smaller ones were already showing signs of total variegation, and I don't want that. So now I want to water some of them here. By the way, I had a fungus gnat fly up here. Welcome to the fungus gnat channel. I had a fungus gnat fly up, but they can't really do much because the soil is pretty dry. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to not really do the stream at the same time every time, and I'm always ready to go into completely new directions. Like if a question comes in, I'm happy to go totally off topic, you know, just to keep it fresh. Hey mate, welcome to the stream. Great to have you. Okay, so I have a few of these that are out of the bag, and the one thing that they have in common is they need water. In this case, I wanted to show this. Shows that bricking, that bricking process of soil. It's really like a brick of soil down there, sunken in. If you touch it, this isn't flexible at all. It's one thick mass. And it's just from, you know, this has been watered and sprayed a few times yesterday. But when we're working with soil that is intended to dry out fast, it is intended to not kind of have those fungal infections that can linger around. So this needs to be watered, all of it. So I brought the can. I have them here on this thing here, because every time I'm using it, I'm flooding the whole desk. So now I will try to water these a little. All of them will get water, and they will get more water later. Here's one where I transplanted seedlings that I wanted to show you these. They are starting to look a little better. They are now in fresh soil, so they should have enough nutrients. This actually should be well long term. Right now, it will take a while until they have a little bit recovered. Okay, and apart from that, yeah, there's good growth. Aside from the fact that they could even grow faster if they would get more water. Little seedlings, you can really water them a lot. Just make, as long as the soil dries out every time on a regular basis, I don't really see too many risks. Of course, you need to make sure that there's no like a root rot situation that is happening. But apart from that, they like quite a lot of water. Everything that is little tiny cactus seedlings here. You can water them a few times a day, and every time in between the soil dries out, then I see I gotta water again. It really never ends. So yeah, I want to wait, let this sink in a little, so I don't flood the desk again. Moving this a little bit forward. So I'm putting a few more here, just to soak up a little bit of the water that I have here. I really try to work clean here, but it's not easy. yeah, and you know, the broken can. I earlier really said that broken can thing, it's following me. There's no way I can fully ditch it, you know. Okay, here's another part of this of that water sprayer. I will try to get it open, to break it open later. I want to see if I can fix that button. Okay. Here, seedlings look okay-ish. Small, too small probably. But then again, Sörensia. This is Teleflora, and the seeds look a lot like Telegonus actually. Teleflora has a lot of the abilities and traits of Telegonus. So yeah, that the seedlings might be a little bit smaller. That is possible. But yeah, we've also seen a lot of the seedlings from Teleflora being weakish, smallish. I had to take out quite a few of them that didn't have a chance. And I will continue. Right now, I took one out again. Every time I'm opening this thing up, I look for problems, for problems that can come up later. So I'm trying to actually prevent that. Here's another one that is looking milky, looking glassy. That whitish, milky kind of look that seedlings get when they're gone. And then I always take them out. I hope that in this case here, I will be able to get a few larger plants. That is enough for me. In the future, I will try very hard to grow the seedlings to a size where they are safe, and then we're bringing them out. Nothing will go out that is unsafe, that is too small. This kind of stuff, I don't want to overwinter that anymore in the greenhouse. I want them to be a little bit bigger, and then they can go out. But this is still the kind of size that I want to have under my eyes. I want to be like that helicopter mom that is having their eye on them all the time. I don't want to have, you know, when you have them in a greenhouse, very often you have a situation where a slug comes across in winter, or a mouse, and they take little bites out of them. Or you have a drip water problem, and drip water can come from so many different parts of the greenhouse. Sometimes you have drip water from the window. Sometimes you have drip water from the panels of the greenhouse. And at this age, they are just very sensitive, very smallish, easy to lose, and I don't want to do that anymore. So in the future, this kind of stuff stays in until they are a little bit bigger. How much bigger exactly, we will find that out together. We will discuss that later. Right now, everything's going good. We have so many seedlings here, and it's getting to a point where we might have to single out, replant, transplant, whatever. It sounds like real work to me. But we're going to do it because I want to have that. I want to see all them, you know? Like every container here, everything of them is great. You could show them one seedling out of all of them, and I would trust them to at least be interesting. I'm not saying that when you're making crosses, you will always have those that disappoint, but it will be an interesting disappointment because the parents involved make it a good, interesting, like a time worthy kind of thing, worthy of using the space that you need to grow them. I always want to have that, and every one of those is like that. So yeah, want to water more here. Maybe then we can discuss them when the water has sunken in a little. Really trying not to have an electric, you know. I have the lamp here. I don't want to have too much water leaking on the table. I really need a water sprayer again. I have a big one that I wanted to bring here on the stream, but it's so big and it's also leaking. So I don't know what it is sometimes with the water sprayers, but I have a few, and I had to learn how to on the regular clean them, which kind of valves you need to open up, which kind of, sometimes these water sprayers they stop working like after 6 months, usually when you have the first algae messing it up, and then you need to just invest some time, take that thing apart and look for the problem. And I have only recently started that. I have a few water sprayers where I just felt like it broke, and then I looked closer, and because I urgently needed a water sprayer, and saw that it's just little stuff like algae, which is very common to happen in these water sprayers, unless you always cook the water. Okay, so these here have a whole tray of seedlings now, and they've all been watered. And I wanted to water them a little bit in a way that the water kind of stays a little, stays a while there. That is important because in this case we had soil that was so dry that if you just spray it, you will barely get it saturated with water. The soil will just, the top layer will dry out again, and the little humidity that you have there will sink in. So yeah, trying to maximize the space that I have here to do that, because they all needed it. They all needed a little bit of extra water. A few of them also need seedlings repositioned because they fell over from watering. When I'm watering like this, it's not really for the weak. So we might have to reposition a bunch of seedlings here and there when the water has sunken in. I want to give it all the time it needs. Here's another one. Sometimes when you have a pot where the soil has bricked, that is really a common thing. And when that happens, people put the whole pot into water to really let it saturate, like really put that thing in a bucket full of water and leave it there for like an hour. And again, everything you do, you have risk. When you leave something in water for an hour, you can have problems, but you can also have problems from that bricked soil. So you sometimes have to do it if you want to really get flexibility back into the soil. Once the soil has lost that from drying out, it's hard to get it back without really doing that, what I'm doing now. Putting water repeatedly, adding water and having something that prevents the water from running away. Okay. So a little bit more, and then these are okay. This can sit on the side a little. Later I will bring some of them back so we can discuss them. Few seedlings need to be picked up, like when they're drunk. So that goes away here. Maybe I can put the two remaining ones also there. 2 or 3. Okay. But apart from that, the seedlings look good. I'm actually very happy with the way they are growing. It's going too good. We have too many seedlings. We will have a lot of work on our hands. And I hate it. Okay, but you also have to work in life, unfortunately. There's stuff that you just need to do. So let's push this thing away here, just a little bit out of sight, so I don't have to deal with it anymore. And let's continue opening some more of these bags that I brought. Some bigger, some smaller. There's just no way to do a cactus gardening live stream without dirt. It's just part of the game. So, okay, this is the one that we discussed. Teleflora stays in the bag. Seedlings are just too small to take them out. Yeah, that is like the fact that when we got those extremely hot summers in the last few years. Every year we basically only had flooding for 1 or 2 months and 1 or 2 months of excessive heat. And that was the time when I decided I would go more with the organic soil. I used to grow everything in pumice. But now that we get these extremely hot kind of months, I started going with more organics in the soil. Also having them wet on a regular basis, making sure that the water doesn't run away. Just the difference that you get if you put a tray below the seedlings during the hottest time of the summer. It makes a huge difference in regards to flowering, in regards to growing. I've had like plants besides each other, some on a tray where the water couldn't run away so fast, and others besides it just on the ground, and the ones on the tray did so much better. They grew faster. They were better, like much better hydration. Really a difference between night and day. And since then, I sometimes use that in summer too, in the greenhouse. Yeah, look, cacti, I'm sure that a lot of these cacti, the smaller ones, the Lobevia, they are not so difficult. A lot of these Thailand hybrids are Lobevia, Echinopsis, all cacti that are a little bit smaller. And you can grow them inside. You can grow them in classic indoor conditions or in a heated, without a real winter. I'm pretty sure that the smaller the cacti, the less of a problem it is. With the bigger ones, with the columnar cacti, I just don't think that they can fully give them what they need to flower in a similar way they would flower if they had a winter. But the smaller the plant, the less of a problem it is, in my opinion. Do you have any tips for cleaning seeds from the fruit? Yeah, sure. I have that kind of a sieve. I can get it. Give me a second and I will show you the sieve that I use. Give me a second, okay? I will show you. Okay, I have it. So this is the sieve that I use for cleaning seeds. Something like this. This is from cooking. They use this when they are doing sauce, all kinds of stuff, that where you have to remove the tomato skin, whatever. This is a very common cooking thing, also for noodles, whatever. And it has a pretty fine kind of sieve kind of thing. With the holes are very fine. And this is something where you just put in the content of the fruit. Just the pulp, just the pulp and the seeds, and you put that in here and put it under running water, and you're constantly pushing carefully, like with the thumb, and not crushing the seeds. You really need to have that right kind of pressure to push through the pulp and everything that sticks to them, but without crushing the actual seeds. And if you do that maybe 5 minutes, you will have mostly seeds in there, and then you can just turn that thing around on a piece of paper towel, and then you have like within a day or two, that stuff will dry up. The less fruit you have in there, like the less pulp you have with the seeds later when you dry it, the better. So if in doubt, just clean it a little longer. Yeah, okay. So just so everyone that doesn't see the comments, the comment was that he's been kind of shaking the fruit with water in a bottle, you know. In my opinion, the risk that I see with doing that, you know, shaking and everything, and the biggest problem that I see is that it will be hard to clean, you know, that you kind of contaminate it unnecessarily because you have all that stuff. It's basically like you're putting together a spore infusion, that kind of thing, but that can work too, you know. I would try to reduce the time where the seeds are wet, and the longer you have seeds swimming in a bottle, the riskier it gets for the viability, germination. When I clean seeds, they do not stay wet for very long. They are just cleaned. You know, you have them in the fruit and they have humidity in the fruit, and then you start cleaning, and they should dry within 5 hours, 5-10 hours maybe. After you have removed all the pulp, after you've had that water run through, and yeah, the longer you have it in a bottle, you know, where you let it sit or where you shake it, whatever, that could be risky for viability, for germination rate. But I never really 100% compared it. I have seen, like, when people have been cleaning seeds in big buckets, I've seen that a lot, and a lot of those had bad viability. I've seen that often, you know. It's just the cleaner you can do it, the better, the faster you can do it. Seeds should be completely clean of any kind of fruit, pulp. And when you put it on a piece of paper towel, a lot of the fruit material that would still be present would stick to the paper towel. That allows you to clean the seeds very well. Again, the faster you can do it, the better, in my opinion. And also this thing here, the one thing that I always criticize about it is there's here, like all around, this is where seeds can get stuck. So you could theoretically contaminate seeds if you have used that thing and the seed got behind there below the rim here. And yeah, it just accidentally traps seeds from time to time, and they can end up in other bags. And unfortunately, I haven't seen a better sieve. I haven't seen anything that didn't have that problem yet. We'll see. But this is what I use, and I use it extensively. Seed cleaning is a big part of the life, unfortunately. I don't like it. I don't like to clean seeds. It's just unnecessary, you know. Like, I mean, it's necessary, but it's the kind of work that I personally don't really enjoy. I like to sow out, and I like to make the pollinations, but cleaning them is really dirty work, hard work sometimes. If you forget the fruit, it starts rotting. So you need to really keep an eye on that. Okay. These look good. Yep. The fresher the better, because the longer you wait, the more the seeds and the remnants of the fruit will kind of grow into each other. You know, not like when all the humidity is out, it gets so hard to to separate the seeds from the remnants of the fruit again. I've had to do that sometimes when I really had, when you have a phase where you just have, when you have a lot of ups and downs like I have, and sometimes I have a phase when I just can't tolerate cleaning seeds. I look at them and I get a nervous breakdown. That's sometimes, and that is like when you have to sometimes clean seeds when they are already a mess, and I hate that. And since then, I really try to do it. Like when it happens right away, when you have that fruit in the hand coming from the greenhouse, then cleaning it is so much easier, so much faster, and so much cleaner. So yeah, let's continue here. These are okay, a little too deep. Color-wise, I would love to start fertilizing, but it's not so bad. I see a little bit of discoloration, like stress, but you see the same and even worse discoloration on the ones that are out. Having like once they are out, it is just, you need to water them a lot, and if you don't do that, the seedlings will kind of react to it. The less you water, the more they will turn reddish, just indicating stress, indicating dehydration. It's similar to when it's getting cold, and they also get that unique kind of color, reddish kind of color, indicating in that case other kind of stress, cold stress. Okay, so and here's a perfect example again for Teleflora when it's gone wrong. This has these dots there. They haven't been doing anything. We've been discussing them before. Barely anything has changed here since then. For now, there's nothing I can do apart from keeping them in the bag, observing. I'm not having any kind of fungus gnat in there. So they have a little bit of time. It's just that when they haven't grown in a month, at some point you will lose patience with them. And very often it can pay off to wait. It's just what I recommend. But very often I also have no patience, So I could see myself throwing this one away at some point if nothing happens. But there are also success stories where you keep that thing around and suddenly after you can finally graft it, usually it turns around and you have a healthy plant later. But it's not the norm, okay? Very often not. Okay, so here, these have been transplanted in sowing soil, and they are in the container to recover. After they've been transplanted, they were in a bad medium and had to be transplanted. They were looking a little bit dehydrated, and that has stopped a little. I can also see a healed fungus gnat bite mark here on the seedling. Maybe we can save it. Very often when they get bites, actual bites, you can't save them because that becomes infected so easily. But if you do it right, if you take them out to let that bite kind of callus heal for a few weeks, maybe a couple of weeks, and then you might be able to bring it back in humidity to let them to allow the seedlings to recover. And that is what has been done here. For now, the seedling's still here. Okay, and in this one, a lot of variegation. And you can really see it is variegation because you can compare it to the green seedling there in center. The greenish stuff on the left, on the upper left, that is moss, I think. But yeah, one or two healthy seedlings in there. Not bad. If those green ones will eventually grow, that is okay. All the others, they could be prime candidates to be grafted if that's what you like. And I'm not judging. I'm just not doing it myself. It's just a little bit more work than I'm willing to do. But it can be worth putting some time and effort into grafting them. Oh, it depends. Like you would have to look at the medium that you are using for the seedlings. There was a comment that the seedlings don't grow because the roots rot off. That can happen. Always depends on what if there is a contributing factor like fungus gnats that very often bite the roots and then it rots. In my opinion, seedlings take a fair amount of humidity in the beginning before the roots start really giving in. And very often it's either the soil that has something, maybe the pH level isn't right, or there's a problem like fungus gnats, mealybug. That kind of stuff can really contribute to having a root rot early on, because in the very first few months, like the first 3 months, they can only survive in the humidity. I couldn't even take them out at that very first stage. I haven't seen a lot of people grow cactus seedlings like this outside of humidity all the time in the beginning. Maybe it works if you spray them all day long, but they actually like a fair amount of humidity in the beginning. Later on, after like the first 6 months maybe, then it turns around, then it becomes a real problem, like with making sure that the roots don't rot. Okay, yeah, these here, similar kind of experience, like similar impression that I get, not healthy. There are a few seedlings where I can definitely see them growing, but for now it's just too early. This is relatively young Imperialis hybrids, and those are, in my opinion, also similar to Teleflora. Imperialis is actually like known as a hybrid between Telegonus, Sorensia telegona, and an Echinopsis. And I think the Echinopsis, which species is involved, isn't always written in stone. I've seen a few different ones, different species being used, but it's the same kind of hybrid, similar to Teleflora. Very often with hybrids that I see with Telegonus, they very often have those Echinopsis spines that you see on Teleflora and other hybrids like Imperialis. They look very classic, like Telegonus a little, but with the Echinopsis spines. Okay. Yeah, same situation here. This is Mamacita, offspring of Mamacita. It is known as an Acacia Echinopsis hybrid, involving Otto Schulz. I'm not sure what that Otto Schulz plant is, because I've read different stories in the past. Just recently I read that Otto Schulz is unknown parentage. It looks like it could be Acacia, but I don't know. There are just too many multi-hybrids where you can get similar kind of body flower combinations. It could be a few different things, but Acacia is pretty close. It would definitely fit. So yeah, and these here are seedlings of Mamacita, a hybrid by Macondo Cactus, Cactenfers. If we can get a few of them later to flowering, that would be great. Okay. So this is also seedlings. Oh, and it is good that we are doing something here, that we look into this, because I see a fungal infection there in center, right in center. That is just a seedling that expired. It's really like fungal spore germination on the seedling that is decaying. It's not a fungal infection. It's the seedling not making it, and you have that secondary fungal infection. So I will take that out. This should be no problem to take it out. And you also got to be careful when you have young seedlings. They can sometimes look indistinguishable when they form their little roots to fungal infection. So you have to look very closely that whatever you have there is not just the roots of the seedlings. Cactus seedlings, they have this very fine spider webby kind of root that is forming slowly, and like actual fungal infection, actual mold growing on a seedling, it looks a little bit bigger, a little bit more like powdery, a little bit more of that fluffiness, that stuff that you always see from when you see spore germination. This is a little bit more than spore germination. It's actually decay of the seedling. So yeah, apart from that, here's a weed. Here, this thing, I want to take that out because this has the potential to become, to root deep. And when you have something rooting in the pot with seedlings, you will have a hard time getting it out again when it's bigger. So now I can already feel that there's a substantial root behind it. This is just from that came up just a few days ago. Okay, seedlings here, a lot of variegated seedlings, reddish. I think those have no chance. No chance at life. They're just there, and one day they will not be there. They will be written out of the plot. So I just hope that maybe we can get a few of them, of the green ones, to adulthood. I have corrected bad positions, like when seedlings were not touching the soil the way they should. I often correct that. Because if you don't do it, there's just a high chance that you will lose the seedling. In nature, nobody cares, but we do care. It just makes a difference if you have 1 or 10 plants from one cross, So apart from that, maybe a little bit of water. I will put it back into the bag because the small ones, these are all too small. Even the green ones are too small. Taking those out would result in a lot of serious work. Just a little bit of water, just a few drops here and there. And this is a Lobivia multi-hybrid cross. So I like that stuff. Interesting. Going into a new direction. I want to be able to have a hybrid that you can combine with both Trichocereus, Echinopsis, and Lobivia. So not both, but 3. Actually, something that that is so useful that you can use it with different types, completely different types of cacti. Okay. So these were the seedlings. Let's continue with the ones where we have sown out. Let's see if we have new seedlings that have come up. The ones that I'm opening now, these have come from the heater. And this is basically their last chance to germinate. Everything that doesn't come up now within the next couple of weeks is history. We will just replant something in them. Not seeds on top, but just, when we need seeds, these will go into the pot. When we need soil, this is something that has never really been used, so we might reuse it. This is from Echinopsis glauca last year. I'm actually ashamed that it didn't come up. In my opinion, Echinopsis glauca so far, I have had a few different fruits on it, and what worked with it so far was Echinopsis hybrid Papagena, the yellow one, yellow Papageno. That one had a healthy fruit with healthy seeds, and apart from that, I had a successful cross with Bamboy, and I have seedlings from that too. Apart from that, Gräsers Erfolg hybrid had a poor viability. I had seedlings, but just a few. So I'm still trying to figure out what kind of a plant that is. Sometimes you get a plant and it is important to know where it stands in the family tree of the cacti that I'm working with, to know how I can use it. And it's something that I really need to understand, because if I don't, I will often pick the wrong partner for it. There are some plants that cross easily, and Echinopsis glauca is none of them. It's not one of them. It is just a little bit. It might need that specific kind of partner to have a full healthy fruit. And so far, I haven't found it yet. In my opinion, Echinopsis glauca will probably cross very well with Shalensis, Echinopsis shalensis. Those two are somewhat related. And if I get them to flower at the same time, I can test this theory. In my opinion, it should work because they have some fundamental similarities. They have very fundamental similarities after having seen them in my greenhouse. So I'm waiting for a time when I have both flowering at the same time, and then we will test it. This one here, I have filled up water just out of desperation, not really seeing a lot. But here's something that could look like a seedling, like the beginning. Sometimes you have seedlings that germinate, but they are so tiny that you can overlook them. I'm seeing something like that. It could really be that these seeds are viable. They didn't come up in the first test, first germination cycle. Then I dried them, did a second germination cycle with the same seeds to see if there's maybe life in them. And this is now after the second germination cycle. Still no real seedling. If this is one seedling, then it's not a healthy one. Not a fan. Not impressed, you know. But this is also important. We sometimes, when I have absolutely no germination in a container, I take the tag, take a close look at the tag, and then think about it. Think about why it didn't work. And we will do that on the stream. We will discuss that. A lot of them are genetically incompatible. Some others the seeds might be too old. You can usually narrow it down. So here we have seedlings. This is good. I'm very happy that in this case we have something. We have not totally wasted our time with the second germination cycle and all that. This is also Imperialis. Very small seedlings. Would also fit like with the mother plant of these seeds here. I'm still not 100% certain that the label is correct. But the small size of the seedling, the small size of the seeds points into that direction, that this has Telegonus in the family tree in a pretty substantial degree. Okay, so I have quite a lot of seedlings in this one suddenly, and these will go to the lamp. This will come away from the heater. I do not want to have these at too hot temperatures. That is not healthy. Once you have seedlings, you need to be careful about not overheating them. So here, no seedlings, absolutely none again. Loxanthinopsis. Let's put in a little bit of water, but it's probably genetically incompatible. Loxanthinopsis, Loxanthocereus echinopsis hybrid by Andreas Wessner. And sometimes the seeds are healthy, sometimes not. In this case, might very well be genetic. Okay, so next one. Did I open these? Yeah, this is Teleflora. These go to the lab too. Too much stuff at once at the table here. So let's continue with this one. Also no seedlings after second germination cycle. What do you use for nutrient and how often? I use a fertilizer called Vuxal Super. They sell that fertilizer for commercial crops, for sensitive commercial crops. And that's why I have it. It kind of has a pH buffer, pretty decent fertilizer. And it doesn't cause the classic fertilizer burns that you see from some of the cheaper fertilizer that often, high nitrogen. Sometimes they are just fertilizers where you have to be very careful about having the right concentration. And Vuxal Super, it's a little bit better, a little bit easier to apply. You can spray it. Yeah, and I've bought a can, like a big can, 5 liters, I think. I'm not sure how many, but I bought that a few years ago and I still have some of it left. I've been using that up over the years, and I rather use very little of it, rather smaller concentration, lower concentration, but then a little bit more often, or every 2 weeks, for example, but a little bit more diluted or just in the concentration that they recommend. I really try to not overdo it with the fertilizer and rather have it in a little bit lower dosage, but repeatedly. I believe in repetition, in the power of repetition and watering on a regular basis. I water a lot, and the fertilizer kind of comes second. Fertilizer is important, but the water, in my opinion, in my system that I use to grow cacti, to get them to flower, the water is more essential, is more important. Okay, here also, this is Mamacita. No seedlings. From Mamacita, you can expect genetically unhealthy seedlings. Can also mean no seedlings at all. Lifeless seeds can happen. We will see, but it can also be that these were just too old. Sometimes I find a bag of seeds and I'm sowing them out and it was a little bit too late. Too little, too late. That happens. Okay, so here. Fresh germinations. So that is good. One thing that sticks out to me is that the soil is too dry. When it breaks open like this, you can see the soil breaking, covering seedlings. That is usually a sign that it's too dry. I would try to correct that, and I might have to reposition the seedlings a little bit just to get the ones where the soil broke open just from handling. When the soil is wet, that doesn't happen, but if it dries out at some point, you can get these sudden breaks of soil. Okay, so I will water it a little bit and then I will work on the seedlings carefully because they are still small, very small. How long is the shelf life? Seeds actually, it depends on how you store them. I often freeze cactus seeds or pollen, pollen for pollinations, flower pollen. I often freeze it, and when you do it right, when you keep them dry frozen, then you can keep them viable for years, like really for years. But you have to do it right, and if you do it wrong, if too much humidity gets to the seeds, they can instantly become unviable just from freezing them poorly. So it needs to be done right. If you store them inside at room temperature, the colder the better. Really, the colder the better. If you can store them at maybe 5 degrees in the coldest part of your house, It just needs to be dry. It needs to be dry and cold, not like a cellar. You know, you can't put them in the cellar because that would lead to too much humidity in the air. If you can keep them dry at maybe 5 degrees, you might have a year or two, or maybe even 5, you know. But if you really want to, if you don't plan to work with them within the next year, sometimes it can be good to look into freezing. And I would experiment with it, because you can also do it wrong. And yeah, but I have quite a few frozen seeds, and within the next months we might try it out. We will try out the viability after a certain time, when frozen. We will see how that goes, you know. So I'm correcting the seedlings here, and some of them are tiny and shouldn't have been disturbed yet. I only got involved because they were already lying there. They were already doing poorly. These are very, very young. 10 days maybe. 10 days after germination. So for now, I just corrected the seedlings, corrected the humidity a little bit, that the soil stays flexible again. And that should be all right for now. There are 1 or 2 that are variegated seedlings in that thing. But for now, they are alive. When you have a variegated seedling in there with a lot of other seedlings, and it's fully variegated, you need to consider that seedling. You need to look at that seedling like it's been bitten by a zombie, like it's already got the risk. You know, it might already it might turn at any time. If it's fully variegated and can produce chlorophyll at some point, it will turn. If that doesn't happen, it's still able to produce a little bit of chlorophyll. If it's a full variegated seedling, it's like someone that has been bitten by, you know, by zombie. Okay, these will go to the lamp again. Really okay, but they need to be undisturbed. I can't do what I did here on a regular basis because they are so small. I would have left them alone if they hadn't already not been looking bad. Okay, so here soil is okay. Let's see what it is. Loxanthinopsis. Yeah, I'm starting to see a pattern. This might be the same seed. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the American brand names or Australian brand names. I'm really also not experimenting a lot anymore with fertilizer, because once you have a system that works, I'm just a little bit of slightly autistic, you know. When I have a system that I like, then I usually stick to it. But I'm sure you can find a lot of good quality fertilizer that is comparable, you know. The stuff that I look for is when, for one, it needs to be a full fertilizer. You can't really, they often sell you fertilizer that has obscenely low kind of values, just something that is already close to being homeopathic, you know. So I really look at if it actually is enough for a fertilizer, if there's enough nutrients in it, NPK, you know. And if that is the case, then I look at the pH level. pH level is a big thing, and the fact that my fertilizer has that pH buffer, it kind of makes a difference, you know. Sometimes you lose seedlings because the soil has the bad pH, and you avoid that. You can sometimes operate with very bad soil. Even like the soil alone wouldn't work, but you can somehow get that soil to a level where the plant thrives a little bit. and that kind of stuff. Then it needs to have all the other important micronutrients that are often forgotten when you, for example, when you're working with the classic kind of organic fertilizer. Like I've been recently experimenting with some sort of organic fertilizer, and for one, it was very difficult to have the pH level and not completely mess with the soil, and it was lacking important stuff, important micronutrients, important just bad combinations, like in the parts that they have added. So yeah, exact. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of different kind of pH level products available, and it's nothing different. In my opinion, it's probably something very simple that they add to correct the pH level. You know, there are a lot of kind of food grade stuff that you might even get from the food industry. I've been experimenting with a lot of different types of vinegar, like the carbohydrate rich kind of vinegar from stuff like rice, that kind of stuff. You know, that you might be able to play around in a positive way with the pH level with something like that too. For a while, I was actually spraying bigger plants with a mix, like with a little bit of vinegar, but just it was some sort of a Chinese product, and they have used a certain special type of vinegar that was very low in acid, very low concentration. It allowed me to, when you use a little bit, it could fix the pH level. That is often stuff that they add. Yeah, will work too. So yeah, pH level is a huge thing. And the longer you keep them in the same soil, the more likely it is you need something like that. It's not, you don't need it. You can also repot every time the soil turns bad, but a lot of people don't do that, and that's why it can be beneficial. Okay, so let's see what we have here. Also, is this Teleflor? No, this is Leuchtfeuer. I've discussed this one. Beautiful hybrid, but unfortunately no seedlings here. I have a second one where also sown out, and there I saw 1 or 2 at the most. 5.5 to 6.5 is the range that they recommend. And that is exactly what the fertilizer, like what my fertilizer comes out at. Okay, so here, this needs. In this one, I have found the problem why the seeds haven't come up. The bag was losing humidity. This was one of the bags. Somehow it must have a tiny hole, and the humidity is disappearing. So this will go into a new bag, and then we will try to have the humidity again. I can see little seedlings, but they are so small that I don't think they will survive. Sometimes when you already start inducing germination and they don't get a lot of humidity, then they come up as these miniature versions of themselves. So more water. This is not good. This is not what I wanted. The water just went through. This is what I always warn about not to do. We'll see. I will remove the water here. Excess water should be removed all the time. This just, I don't know, the soil was so dry. The water ran straight through it. Okay, next one. I just want to correct these. Want to see if maybe there's life in them or not. Here's a seedling. A lot of them, the ones that failed, have now, in the second attempt, brought some seedlings. like, but tiny, barely viable. I don't know if that's better, you know? This goes to the heater again. Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds interesting. I wasn't aware you could use it, but it's interesting. I will think about that, you know. You can easily get extracts, but I can't really tell you how much healthier they would be with that. And what's like, is it beneficial to the seedlings in any way? I mean, you know, does it work just as a classic organic plant extract fertilizer? Or is it like, maybe if I could see that being beneficial also for seedling health? If the seedlings can kind of tolerate it. I haven't tried aloe on any kind of cactus before, but I wouldn't think, but I definitely think it's possible that it could be useful. So I'm interested. So let me know how you use that, and if it's actually, if you see any kind of positive effect from it, would be interesting. I haven't heard that before. I use it right now when I start to fertilize. I use the same fertilizer, no matter if they are small or big. In the beginning, of course, I kind of dilute the concentration down to a safer level. Maybe diluting it to 1/5 or 1/4 of the final dosage, but it really depends. At some point, they will get full dose fertilizer like the big ones, and a lot of water also like the big ones. In the beginning, the one thing you need to be careful about with seedlings is fertilizer burn. And fertilizer burn is something that I haven't seen from Vuxal. You know, that is why I use it. Also, you can use it very often without problems. I'm sure there's a limit. I'm sure even Vuxal has some sort of a concentration where it becomes risky, where it can also burn, but it's not comparable to some of the other fertilizers that I have seen, that I've experimented with. There are a lot that can really mess seedlings up. They would just turn into liquid, you know. They would just disappear, they melt. Okay, so in this one, I think we're giving up in regards to inducing germination. I'm not seeing that here. I'm not seeing the ship turn around. I will take this out of germination, away from the heater. This will come to the lamp just to increase the chance that we will get that one seedling here. The longer I keep that at the heater here, the riskier it gets for that one seedling. So this will go away from the heater to the lamp. Yeah, like I said, in the beginning, I start fertilizing when I take them out of the bag. In the first 3 months when I have them in the bag, I don't fertilize. But the moment I take them out, then they get a little bit of Vuxal Super also with the water sprayer. Because that can help you to get them through the dangerous phase very quickly. But everything in limits. The younger the seedling, the easier it is to kind of get them to bloat, get them to grow too fast. Then they would kind of grow weak. They would have a very weak cell health, very often getting fungal infections. You know, you can really see that if you are pushing seedlings too hard. At some point, it's too much, and they will just get a fungal infection. That is exactly the reason why you often don't have fungal infection, that classic really bad fungal infection unless something is wrong, unless the nutrient situation is just promoting that, or the water situation is promoting that, or the setup where you have basically a rainforest because it's too shady everywhere. Whatever you have is just too dark. But apart from that, if you grow them a little slower, give them time. I start fertilizing usually around 3 months, after 3 months, but in very limited concentration, very small concentration. Okay. What's this? Luxanthocerois, Luxantinopsis, also no seedlings. I think we're seeing a pattern. I've sown out quite a few of these Luxantinopsis, and so far none of them have come up. None. We have a few seedlings, but not from this fruit. And the way I look at it, it's consistent over 3 containers. In this one, there was a seedling, but it didn't make it. Feathers hybrid needs a little bit more water, just a little bit, but also not looking so good. Not looking very healthy here. So most of the containers where we didn't get any seedlings, there's a reason for it. And that's what I always want to do. Opening up, looking at the label, and trying to explain why they didn't come up. Because with fresh seeds, they should come up, always. In the shop, like when I had stuff in the shop, I always tested it. Viability is the important thing when you are dealing with seeds. So every case where you have a poor germination rate, you need to be able to explain it to yourself. That will also affect, like if you always know what kind of a fodder you used for what kind of a plant, and if the outcome in one of those is total failure, maybe they just don't fit together. Maybe it's not supposed to be. So next time you are picking something else, you know? Okay. This is the last one, I think. And then we have 4 more, 4 square pots. No, takeout containers that I also want to go through. Humidity is all right, but seeds don't come up. What is it? Let me see. Show yourself. Okay. This is a columnar mother. And with a multi-hybrid father, so risky cross. This fruit only had a few seeds. Not many, just 3 or 4, or maybe 10. And yeah, and that's how the viability was. Not really well, not really good. Okay. So let's compare the takeaway containers. I only have 4 today. Next time we will have more. I didn't want to remove them from the heater because so many of them were still not really showing progress. No seedling here. Humidity is all right. Condensation all over the walls of the container. That should be enough to facilitate germination. If nothing comes up here, it wasn't the water. Okay, so here, only 2 seedlings, and 1 starting to lean over. I don't like that. This is fast 12. Luckily, I can explain why that second seedling is lying there. You see, soil has broken overall, I feel like it is easier to have problems with soil in these containers, in these takeaway containers. I will reposition that one seedling here. We'll try to fix that crookedness that it had. And then they will go to the lamp. Just 2 seedlings, but that's how it is. At this point, it was at the heater for many days. Despite the seedlings that we already had, at some point we will have to face it, that it's not getting better in this one. So these will go to the lamp. And whatever plant lamp you're using, it would usually be all right. I'm using a Mars Hydro lamp, and it's not expensive. For cactus seedlings, even a cheap one should be all right. You are not growing large cacti. They are very sensitive to sun stress and all that. Don't buy a lamp that is not made for them, you know. So here, 2 seedlings in the upper left. Not really happy with the viability. This is Arboricola and Zelly as mother and Pink Stripes as father. Exceptional, like a very good cross. So these are important, and I will just move this to the plant lamp, trying to grow them until they are big enough that I can take them out of the takeaway container. At this point, I feel like the seeds have gotten enough humidity. They have gotten the right temperature. They should come up. They should have come up by now. And at that point, I focus on the seedlings that are already there. Try to look at it from a positive point of view. Be happy with what you got. If you only got 2 seedlings from a certain type, maybe it's really the best that these seeds could have gotten, you know. Okay, so this is the only one that goes to the heater again, with a lot of the other bags that I've opened up earlier. Everything that didn't have any life goes back to the heater, and yeah, then we will see. Long term, I want to clean a few seeds. I brought these here. I'm not sure if we will do it today, but it's on the plan for the next streams in the next days. And yeah, later today I will be out again, doing the greenhouse, cleaning the greenhouse, and I will stream or film again. So there might be another video later. Okay, thank you. I'm about to end the stream myself. So thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you for always taking time out of your day. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. We are doing a positive thing here, sharing a positive hobby, growing a lot of cactus seedlings and vegetables and that kind of stuff. So I feel like we are having a positive kind of place here, positive space, and it's always good coming back. So if you guys have any questions, just write them in the comments and I try to get back. I'm a little slow, but I usually get back. Also, people sending me messages and all, have patience, you know. I sometimes see it delayed. And if I don't see something, please apologize. I always try to get back, but they are making it more difficult to see where people are writing, because you get messages for every page separately now, and I run quite a few pages and groups, and you know, so they send you all kinds of different notifications, and you at some point it's getting difficult. But again, thank you guys. I will be back tomorrow. Thank you, Robert, also for being here. All of you guys, thank you. Have a nice day. Talk soon.